right, everyone, welcome to the Robert Show. I'm here at the London office of ThoughtSpot. As you can see, the very cool background with the two cool people in the data world, Chris Tabb and Laura McDonald. Thanks for joining me today. And I know for a fact we'll be talking a lot around data, modern data stack, data analytics, and how to break into data science. And we can go on, I guess. It's a Monday.
Shut me up at some point, probably.
So, looking forward to having the questions coming in from you guys as well. Feel free to ask questions if you guys have any. And the webcam is a little behind. So, if you can't hear us, give us a shout. We'll start a bit louder.
Or if it's too loud, we'll shut up.
Yeah. Sounds good. Also, we have a very cool giveaway that we are doing today, which is the very cool ThoughtSpot swag, I guess. But to get this, Laura, you can show them the very cool, hat. And if you want to win in, just type in hashtag ThoughtSpot in the chat, and towards the end of the show, we'll be doing a very cool raffle. So don't forget to do that. Also, let me know if you can see us live on LinkedIn, YouTube, because I know we're live and there are 50 people watching us. Chris, I know.
Well,
you never know.
Only 50.
Only 50. All right, but definitely a lot to talk around data. But to start with, obviously, we would love, I'm sure the audience wants to know more about what you guys are building. For you, Chris, LEIT Data. For you, ThoughtSpot. Chris, why not introduce yourself?
Well, first of all, thank you for having the show, and thank you for coming to the UK all the way to do your first in-person live show. So that's something. That's a first for you, and it's a first for us as well. So well, LEIT Data. We're trying to make the data world great again. Is sort of like our mission at the moment. Defenders of the modern data stack and trying to leverage our experience from the past to help with the future, and that's about that. We are obviously ThoughtSpot partners as well as Snowflake partners, as well as some other very reputable vendors in the market as well. But we're focused on those two for now, anyway. We operate in the UK and the US now, and Europe as well. So.
Wow! And the team is growing. I was just asking Chris backstage, how big is the team getting? It's getting huge. So I'm very excited.
Yeah, I have to keep checking with Dave if you're listening. You have to give me the latest spreadsheet because you seem to know more than me nowadays. My overestimates became underestimates recently, so I've had to overestimate my latest ones now. So about 80 people now. So
wow, it's a good problem to have, right?
It is. But, it's a tough challenge as well, trying to. Trying to balance, the spending time to do these shows and help get the knowledge out there and help me steer customers and the whole data community in the right direction.
Yeah, fantastic. Laura, what about you? I know for a fact ThoughtSpot is out there doing a lot of stuff. Mm-hmm. So we would love to learn more about you and ThoughtSpot as well.
Yeah, fantastic. And hello to everyone out there in the audience. Rabbit, thank you so much for having me on the show. And as Chris said, this is Rabbit's first ever in-person show. So it's a privilege to host you here in the ThoughtSpot office.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, I'm Laura. I'm one of the account executives at ThoughtSpot. So part of the go-to-market team. Was completely new to the data space about 3 years ago when I first joined, but have met an incredible community out there and working with some incredibly exciting companies who are ultimately with us on this journey to completely move the needle, that next stage along, to empower the end business consumer and elevate the role of the analyst to go beyond the dashboard. And I'm sure we'll go into our most controversial campaign around the dashboards are dead, but that's a conversation we'll go into. So yeah, very exciting space.
There's a lot of things dead at the moment, isn't it? Modern day stack's dead.
Apparently so.
I can't wait to hear your thoughts because you are the Snowflake, Chris, and after Snowflake I've heard so much about modern data stack being dead.
Yeah.
And want to hear, how, things are there, but we'll get there. Because that's like the main question for today that I have for you, but definitely want to learn.
I interrupted Laura, sorry, you're still good.
Yeah.
Not the first time. So part of the ThoughtSpot go-to-market team and on an exciting journey based here in London, but this is obviously the heart of European ThoughtSpot operations.
Yeah.
So I'm also working with some super exciting companies who I think some of them are online today out in the Nordics, Stockholm, the Silicon Valley of Europe, as they call it as well.
Yeah.
So it's an interesting space, and we're live query direct on the Cloud Data Warehouse. So again, everything to do with the Databricks, Snowflakes, BigQueries of the world is part of the modern data stack that again will be discussing later.
Very cool. And if you're around in the UK and if you want to meet Laura, she's always here. She's a fantastic host, I must say. So thank you for that, Laura. And okay, let's maybe move a bit into data science, because for a fact where I've done shows now, and the most common question that comes to me is, how do we break into data science? And who better than someone who's in this field, you both. And for you, obviously, like, it could be a fresh experience that you can share, Laura. It's been 3 years that you've been into the game. Chris, to you, it's
about 3.5 years now.
So
long time, 30 odd years I've been.
Oh, man.
So it's an interesting thing. You said that people want to get into data science. They think how they break into it, and I think that you're looking too far ahead rather than knowing that's actually what you want. So and I think I did a post recently about data engineering as well, because that's the new cool role to have, or the new focus, or the highest paid one now, or being up there as a higher salary. And I think the data scientist, that shiny role, never really existed, because all the data scientists still have to do all the data prep. They have to prepare it, and that's the things that probably they weren't expecting to do in that role of data sscientist. They want to run their algorithms.
Yeah.
And then some of those people probably found that they maybe enjoyed doing that data engineering role. But I think, as you put on there, the entry point is a data analyst. So I entered this industry as just a data analyst, or probably even lower down than that.
Wow.
So just working at a data company, but just showing an interest in it. And from that data analyst role, you can naturally select, or your path will be carved for you, like a river carves its way through the most natural route on its journey.
Yeah.
Your career is like that as well. So you may find that actually I like doing a bit of data engineering, or I like doing a bit of the database management. I like a bit of data governance. I like a bit of maybe doing the analysis, or actually adding the money.
Yeah.
I think that comes down to an individual either personality, what makes you tick, what things you want to get out of your role, what challenges you want it to provide for you, and if you enjoy solving those challenges. So I wouldn't always focus on that end one. I want to be a data scientist. Okay, well, if you've got any idea like data, start as a data analyst or something like that. But then watch some shows like this. Watch there's some great content out there in Joe Reese and Matt on the show stuff they do, and that whole community that they work with is. There's great ways of gaining that knowledge and seeing if that's the route you want to go. And you might naturally want to be more an engineer and good at that data ops coding sort of infrastructure aspect. And you don't need to talk to the business, which is good for some people. Some people don't like talking to the business. They just like to get on, do some coding. But then you got the people that may have more of a business acronym, understands what a profit and loss account is, what a customer product is, or what maybe some marketing terms from a churn rate or something. But then for them to be able to articulate that and talk in enough technical in a language that is the right level to the right audience.
True.
And it could be very deep if they need to go into I think you should don't be too descriptive and tell them how to do their job. You tell them what your requirements are, but you can give those requirements in a language that they understand.
Yeah.
You might find that that's the role for you. Or you might find you just like running algorithms all the time, and you're just still waiting for your data to be prepared in a nice way that it can be used. And probably they're still waiting now.
Yeah, I think that's well said, and fair enough. Where you just don't think about the endpoint first.
Yeah.
Just get into it, do something in data. It's not only, and if I rightly understand, obviously it's not only just about being a profession, which is about being a data analyst, but anything around data, if you're doing, you can get there. Yeah. Laura, what do you think about it? Like, what does your journey look like? How do you think if someone wants to break into data, what's like, is there a particular roadmap, or do you think Chris has his thoughts which are like crystal clear, but would love to hear your thoughts as well.
Yeah, definitely. So I think I've kind of got two perspectives, because I'm in the data world, but I'm not on the actual data professional side. I'm part of the sales profession who is working with companies who actually are buying technology.
Right.
So from my kind of personal experience, I mean, I studied French at university, so the data world and analytics was never something that I envisaged myself going into. But when the opportunity came up to join ThoughtSpot, I mean, from a kind of career perspective, it's quite an intelligent move to go into data analytics, because ultimately that space is growing and growing and growing. And I know we're seeing at the moment layoffs in the tech world, which is a real, obviously, shame and kind of sadness for some of those companies. But from a sort of data analytics perspective, technology is deflationary, right? So it's always going to be a sector that's going to grow and grow, and to be at the center of it is super exciting. And especially in the sort of sales profession, what you're really doing is partnering with companies to truly understand, with the data leaders and the analytics leaders out there, what are you trying to achieve? What level of data literacy is your company at, and where are you looking to take that? And ultimately, is there an opportunity to partner together? So similar to what Chris was saying, what we're seeing in the role of data analysts and data scientists and data professionals, you need to have that kind of dual understanding of the data side and also the business side. And it's the same on our side of the fence, where our kind of role is to understand, as a business, what are you trying to achieve? Are you trying to increase your customer acquisition, reduce churn, increase revenue, monetize your data? And then ultimately, what are the technologies and the platforms and the skill set within your team that you need to achieve that? And is ThoughtSpot part of that modern data stack that you're looking to build? So that's kind of my perspective. And then obviously working with customers as well, there's clear examples of people. So I'll name a kind of few. There's Jay, who leads the data analytics at Huel here in the UK. He came up through the marketing side of the business and understanding the core of what sort of drives Huel's growth. And then he went into data analytics side.
Wow.
It's a company called Bambusa over in Sweden, in Stockholm, who provide live video technology for retailers. Some of the analytics team, they've come up through product, but as that sort of convergence between the two sides of a business grows, ultimately that's where we're seeing that skill set combined. So to really succeed in this world, and hence why we're seeing an increase in the role of the chief analytics officer, which is sort of a new one in the market as well, because you have that transcending view across how both sides of the business are going to come together, with data sort of powering that at the heart of it.
Wow, amazing. Great perspective. Thanks for that, Lauren. We have a few folks joining us. I'll just quickly greet them. And for those who are wondering why we typing in #ThoughtSpot, is because ThoughtSpot has agreed to give away cool swag for those who are typing in this and attending the show and also asking good questions. We have this question from YouTube. Let's take this one from Dakshin Vasra. What are the foundation pillars of data engineers for data engineers?
Foundation pillars. So, depends what part. With data engineers is quite a fragmented role now. So there are pillars that would go to the end-to-end that would give you the skills needed to satisfy an end-to-end data pipeline. And they are now unicorns, because there's so many different skills within them. It becomes very difficult to find one person that has it. So starting from left to right, so you need to have some good infrastructure skills to be that unicorn data engineer. So know infrastructure as a code, maybe know Terraform, CloudFormation, to be able to deploy the infrastructure. Then for the next one, you need probably utilities that you need to deploy that code with. So you need to know because Python, maybe some Docker, maybe some ability to be able to run things like Sketch, that sort of technology. And then for your sort of like database foundations are referred to them as, so your schemas, the roles, technical roles. You'll need someone that can understand maybe what used to be called database management or DBA sort of skills. So being able to script up your containerized, you're talking Snowflake terms here, or whatever your data infrastructure is made up of, but it's for simplistic terms, schemas and tables and roles for that. Then after that, you've got your data movement code. So you'll be looking at your DBTs of the world, or maybe Rivery or another product like that, and the other ones in the market for a while. So Matillion was an ETL, or Informatica, or Talons, or you can go on in the older players, Data Stage, and some of the older players, ODI from Oracle. So now you're talking about your movement of the data between the foundational pieces. So that's your ETL code.
Yeah.
You probably need to know some orchestration, how to orchestrate that. So you may need to know Airflow or prefix or something similar to that. So DAG capabilities, or DAG as a skill. Unless you're using Rivery, you can use Rivers for that as well. I'm not just plugging it. But,
of course not.
No, not.
Yeah.
And then you've got on to the consumption element. So now you need to have that data in a structure. So you need some good data modeling skills. And which is one of the things that there's some good stuff at the moment. People are posting the lost art of data modeling. It's something that I've been banging on about for a while. It's something that back when I started, you always had a good data model. You always had lineage. You always structure things in an optimized way. Sure. And the world of, I've gone off the foundation a little bit onto this slide, but so you need to be able to support all of those. The skills need to support that whole end-to-end journey. Would be the summary of that. But I think what's happened is the world of agile, which is great, and another one I've talked a lot about is I call it the autonomy wars. So that decentralized versus centralized battle, right? And they both are right. You do need to decentralize, you do need to centralize, but knowing where you draw that line in each company is very different. Everyone has different views. Your agile purists will say, I want full autonomy to do everything, every time, everywhere. But unfortunately, you can't provide that, because you lose on security, you lose on duplication, you lose on the data modeling, you lose on maybe any quality associated. So it's a trade-off, and to be able to get that balance in an organisation is a challenge, and that's one of the things that we try and help organisations with, is working out, okay, this is where you're on the journey, this is the appropriate centralisation, decentralisation for you now, but you always need to review it, because once something becomes repeatable so many times, then it becomes, right, let's do this once in a cookie cutter approach, and you don't have to do it each time. So so that's some of the modern data stack rationale. I think when people want to kill it off and call it something else, is down to some things we forgot from the good old days, and rolling us veterans out, and to say that back in the day, some of the stuff is probably going to be relevant. It's probably worth listening to. Some of the stuff, maybe not as much, but there'll be some good stuff there that we do rant on about. And agile is okay. It's just you need to be appropriate agile, and sometimes it's worth slowing down to speed up and just having a good data model to work off. And it's a good segue into ThoughtSpot, because I think why we love ThoughtSpot so much is it's such a cool tech as well, but it does really enforce you writing a good data model and having some good data modeling best practice. So you put a good data model that's got a good metadata layer, a good worksheet, good descriptions, well modeled. You can give your data community all the answers they want, and then the answers are the things they didn't know, and then the answers are the things that they didn't think they would need to know, that they do know now. They do need to know now. And it's giving, empowering them, and dashboards is dead comment as well, is that things are static. You're going to look at a thing every time and it goes, oh, it's okay. But maybe it's gone down slightly. But unless you actually know what the metrics are that's actually indicating it, all the answers they want, and then the answers. So it's keep giving that ability to empower your users. But that's what you see. Obviously, that's what you live and breathe now, trying to provide that lens onto the data by ThoughtSpot.
Yeah, definitely. I didn't pay Chris to say that, by the way. He articulates that beautifully, but it's true, and that's what we see in the companies we work with as well. the kind of the data and analytics leaders, whether it's the VP of engineering or the head of analytics or whoever we're working with who's leading that modernization of the tech stack, they're always looking at the bigger picture. It's not just, okay, we want a tool for the ETL job, okay, we want a tool for data modeling, okay, we want a tool for analytics. It's what's the end goal? Well, it's making data more accessible to the business, and how do we achieve that with the sort of data as a product approach to the whole technology stack. And kind of backing off what Chris said, what we're seeing is that it is worth putting the effort in to make that what we often hear the term sort of walled garden of data, that the data professionals still own in the company, but it's clean, and then you make that available at scale. So there's no limitations of scale with ThoughtSpot, neither on data volumes, neither on end users. It's search across your data, interactive live boards without having to pre-build all of that. That's what creates the sort of technical debt in the first place. And I'm thinking back to when we ran our Beyond 2022 analytics conference in Vegas in May, and we had the VP of engineering from Afterpay, who's one of our fintech customers over in Australia. If anyone is, I don't know what time it is in Australia, if anyone's up in the audience from that part of the world, but he was talking about how his team, they can now make a new data set available, I believe it's Redshift, in 14 minutes to the business for consumption. And that's kind of unheard of with other tools. But when you have that framework in your cloud data warehouse, ThoughtSpot sits on top, it's a live query, there's no data movement, there's no data extraction, you don't need to remodel and pre-build everything into a dashboard. It's bring the table in, you expose it to the business. So that's going to really revolutionize how quickly they can, as an engineering team, actually showcase value, because that's the other kind of typical theme that we hear from the data community is we do all this work in the background, we do all this stuff in Snowflake, or we've done all this building, or we've brought dbt in to do some kind of really quick transformations, but no one sees it because it takes then days, weeks, even months sometimes in the larger enterprise customers we work with to actually make that data available in a dashboard, because of all the manual work that has to go into pre-building all those drill paths that ultimately there's a dead end point when you have to go back to the team for another follow-up question. So kind of automating that layer and again making that data as a product and then exposing that for the end business to drive better data-driven decision making at the front line is the ultimate goal. And I know it was back in 2012 that Tom Davenport, I think, coined the phrase, the data scientist, the sexiest career of the 21st century. And then Cindy Housen, who I recommend everyone to follow, she's our Chief Data Strategy Officer, and she's kind of recently done a revamp of that is the analytics engineer, now the sexiest title, because again, it's sort of that blurring between, I guess, analytics skills and data engineering, and that's sort of where the whole DBT community was born from. So there's a lot of movements, and I'm sure you've seen this sort of names of roles or trends that maybe they existed before, but they're now blending with modern technologies, and there's such a
it's like the reform names which are coming up, but they do make a lot of sense. And I've seen the article from Cindy, it's amazing. And yeah, definitely analytics engineering from, we've seen a good amount of people in the DBT space who've been doing this. And it's the next big thing. That's what I think as well. But we're here to see how it goes. What do you think about that, Chris?
Well, first of all, 14 minutes to refresh it. On Redshift.
Bringing a new
on Snowflake, we can do it probably 7. But anyway, it's getting that data out that quick. It's really cool. And I think you're talking about roles that didn't exist before. So the data engineer role didn't exist. It's been created since I've been in the industry. So before it was an ETL developer, or I think it really came around with that big data era, and where it was more code-based releases. CI/CD thing made it into the data world. So then that data engineering piece, which I highly recommend you read Joe's book called Fundamentals of Data Engineering. I'm waiting for my copy.
Same here for the second copy. I've told you.
Did you help technical author as well? Did you? Yeah, cool. So, So great reading. And it's while working with all it, and I mean, they do all the hard work. I'm not trying to take it away, but just helping that helped me understand the things I took for granted in that industry. And I thought, okay, well, yeah, I knew about that. Well, yeah, that's really interesting for people to know, because the cloud technologies has given an abstraction away to what actually really happens, and still knowing what's happening. You don't have to deal with it. It is done as a service. Understanding it will help you make more efficient code. I think that the FinOps is the latest thing. I bang on about a lot in this space, but FinOps is my latest sort of focal point, and it's a combination of that observability capability that's needed to look at what's going on, and I think that's a new focus. And good companies and Excel Data and Monte Carlo, just names what I'm partners with, just name around that. I helping with that. But I think ThoughtSpot, we've done some stuff with working with your Spot app. So providing visibility of your Snowflake usage at LEIT data. We've it's not just blown. This is really is we're trying to get better value out of your cloud infrastructure. So we're looking at seeing what queries are run and looking at seeing what needs to be optimized, and providing all that information back through ThoughtSpot. And the issue that we see with other products that could be used to do that is you need to have licenses for everyone. The speed to onboard them requires a little longer. And then if they did ask something, they probably want a dashboard change at some point, a report change. That goes onto a backlog for someone to go and work on, which is probably not the highest priority because they've got other things. And you're not able to get that lens on how much you're spending or how much usage there is on something. If you've got a team of 5 people working on a particular pipeline that only one person's downloading and extracts once a month to, and you can probably service that in a different route, you're probably not getting the best value out of your spend.
Yeah.
And so the other things we're doing in that space is we're now being able to find any CloudWatch logs in CloudWatch format. It's in a CloudWatch log format. We can pick it up from location. We can process it via Rivery Kit. We can present that now in ThoughtSpot, and it is good to go and buy some of these other tools that are focused on that. If you've already got ThoughtSpot there, and you already need an ETL tool, or you need to have something that you can just go and populate that data into a good structure that allows you to make more informed spending decisions on your platform. Now we are at a time of everyone's cutting their belts. The VCs can run out of money now because they blew it all on some bad decisions, some places possibly. And there's we entitled about, and we need to be accountable for the spend or the cost of the associated things we're running. And it's all been about using these tools up until now to analyze the data to monetize it. Now you need to actually look at the machine that made the machine. It's like the Elon Musk quote. Now we're looking at, all right, now this thing we're using to go and see how to make more money, how can we do that in a way that is more optimized, and maybe the things we're trying to monetize cost us more to monetize than it did. And maybe we've got too many data scientists that work on it, but we haven't even got data prepared for them yet. So I think I do defend this modern data stack deadly. It's a good thing to bring up, right? And it's a good thing for us to say, yeah, something's not right. There's some things that we need to do better. I'd like to prefer to call it modern data stack 2.0. I think I also call it 13.3 because it looks like a more stable version. We've had lots of failed attempts before. I think 10.3. I think that was a good Oracle stable release anyway, patch 2. So call it the underlying technology of a modern data stack has not changed. All we are needing to do is perform some optimization, some consolidation of tools to perform exactly the same jobs, tasks, activities, outcomes, using a smaller team that doesn't need the support that has so many skills,
right?
And do it quicker, faster, for less money. Cool. Okay, so it's still needing just It's still going to need some cloud infrastructure. It's still going to need a good visualization tool, or data insight, or search, AI-based search tool.
Augmented analytics.
Yeah. And where the value, where the magic happens, where the business users see the value of that data. And you need to transform and orchestrate that transformation. So that's not going to change. And if you even go back to the old days of data warehousing, it was still the same thing, but we did it a bit slower, and it was a bit more waterfally, and it was very expensive. But apart from that, we're still doing the same thing, which with better tools, with more swag.
But with that, obviously, I have a very curious question around, obviously the tools in the data automation. Like, which are these tools which you would suggest? I know, and you can be biased. Because you use
there's probably bias, and I do say this a lot. I'm a technologist first and salesperson second. So everything we won't try and push, sell, or suggest using it until we validated it and bought into it ourselves. We buy it ourselves. It doesn't come with selling. We're talking about something we like, and we believe in. So for automation tools, so for the orchestration, automation of deployment, automation of modeling, data modeling.
Data modeling. Yeah.
Data modeling. Okay. Well, we have a lot of research. So SQL DBM is the one that we think is the quickest to market, easiest to use, and easiest to collaborate from a data modeling perspective to make the data world great again by having a data model you put on your modern data stack to make it modern data stack 2.0, and with FinOps as well.
Yeah.
And so that's it. But then if you start looking into a full-blown data vault automation technology, then there's a few players out there. I don't think anyone's nailed it perfectly. I think there's Warescape, there's Irwin are doing something similar. You've got but it's, and I doubt obviously data vault inventor. I mean, it can be quite complex in what objects it creates, but the objects are all of a certain pattern. So I do think by using something with SQL DBM with some good processes and some good disciplines, and maybe a little bit of scripted automation that you hand yourself, you don't need to probably go and spend the money that you would on a quite expensive Warescape licenses or something like that. You can probably mix and match. It does depend on. You need to have a specialist come in and do an assessment and evaluate what would be the best approach you should take. But it depends on your economies of scale, how much you've got to do, how quick you've got to do it, how big your team. I'm not going to give away all the things here, but you've got to ask yourself a lot of questions, and then you've got to do the numbers, and then it will say whether it's worth investing in that. But having good best practice, having some good reusable automation approaches, whether it's automated, fully automated, or hand cranked, semi-automated, and I think that all comes back down to that decentralized centralized where you do automation. But because if the teams out there want to go and do their own data modeling, are you able to enforce them to use your standards and go and form it that way? In my experience, it's very difficult. I think the route I like to go is that you can provide the rationale why people should do it in a certain way, and you need them to know the reasons, know the consequences of them not doing it, and hope they follow it. Because if you try and you'll only slow down the project, maybe they don't know the emphasis on MVP. So you can get on the second iteration, you can try and find it. So maybe you don't need to enforce it the first time, but the second time, maybe it does require that hardening. So it's a big topic.
We can go on forever. That's like a whole new topic which we will definitely discuss in our 2.0 session with lead data and Chris as well. So we have a few comments. The time in Australia is 1:22 a.m. and Robert Robinson is joining us, and he says Cindy is awesome.
Cindy is awesome.
We agree, definitely. And a few questions that we have from our audience here is, One is from Ravina Oswald from YouTube. So excited for the first physical show. Thank you. It's Laura and Chris who made it possible. So thanks to them as well. Would like to know more about the journey of ThoughtSpot. So would you like to tell us more about how did it start and what's like where you guys are right now and what's the next big thing coming for ThoughtSpot?
Yeah, I'd love to. I'm curious who asked the question. I hope it's not a ThoughtSpot employee. Yeah, thank you for the question. There's a famous photo that's circulated many times on our internal Slack, and it's of the very first, it's either a scrap of paper or a napkin, and it's the first drawing of our two co-founders when they met in Starbucks in 2012 and founded the idea of ThoughtSpot. And the interesting thing is that they didn't come from an analytics background in the traditional sense. They actually came from the likes of Google's engineering team, Microsoft. Yeah. So they had come from the search-driven experience, search-driven domain. And the whole idea was, why is it so easy in our consumer lives to be able to just search for answers? And we see this transcending everywhere now. It's not just Google search, it's on Amazon, keyword search, it's on, Deliveroo, you keyword search for the food you want to be delivered. So they coined this idea looking at really the evolution of the analytics world, and they've been, Microsoft Objects and Tableau and Power BI, which are all fantastic tools, and they've all kind of gone through that journey of the analytics in the BI space. But according to Gartner, that adoption still hovers around that 30%, because there's this void between data professionals who understand SQL and how to join and how to build a dashboard using code, and then the rest of the sort of total addressable market, the consumers within an organization who are actually on the front line using reports and insights to make business decisions. So the whole premise of ThoughtSpot was, hey, wouldn't it be revolutionary if we can actually sort of flip the paradigm, focus for once on the whole, data spectrum of users within a company, and bring search to enterprise data. And that was how sort of ThoughtSpot started, and that's why we've always been known as the pioneer of search-driven analytics. And it's interesting because it's not just search that makes the interface so consumable by everyone. It's that combination of search across literally billions of rows of data. And I think I can't name them, but one of our customers hit the record of 1.2 trillion rows of data connected to. I don't even know, I can't even think of that number, but it's that speed to insight at scale and that interactivity of data as well. That was their whole purpose. And in terms of sort of where the company is going, again, we're looking at the live boards. It's how interactive are they compared to a typical dashboard in one of the more traditional dashboarding tools. They're pre-built, whereas in ThoughtSpot live boards, there's no predefining of drill paths. You have that data that's made available, and then you can, if you see a trending graph on your sales metrics and you see a spike, okay, well, I drill into, what was that by country, region, store? Okay, drill into again, was that by product, which SKU line, and go right down to the lowest level of granularity, which ultimately is what makes the difference. If you're making decisions on aggregated data versus on SKU level data, what is the needle that's going to drive for your business. So it's been a fantastic journey, because we started in the enterprise as well. Our first customer was Walmart over in the US, and that was sort of where we sat in the Fortune 50, Fortune 100 organizations. But then as we've sort of partnered and shifted to the modern data stack with the cloud data warehouses, now we've really sort of exploded in the kind of commercial market space as well, with SaaS companies, B2B startups who are all not wanting to build up technical debt and wanting to introduce something that's live consumable analytics right from day one. And that's why the role is so exciting. And then sort of where we're going as well, and we look at what came out of Gartner in London with Rita, the distinguished Gartner analyst. Her sort of two top trends that she talked about was automation and decline of the dashboard and empowering the consumer. So we're always focused on that as as the end goal, and that's where the automation piece comes in as well. Actually, the whole purpose of analytics is to make better, faster, accurate decisions on the front line. So pushing insights out as well, KPI monitoring and having sort of integrations. We have custom actions where if you run a search, market conversions, campaign number, whatever, this week versus last week, instantaneous answer, and then you want to export that to HubSpot or Marketo or MailChimp. Again, you can do that directly from ThoughtSpot. So really sort of closing the loop on analytics. And that's sort of, it's our 10-year anniversary this year, actually.
Wow, congratulations.
Yeah.
ThoughtSpot has been into the game for 10 years now.
Yeah, it does.
It looks so new, right? And you've done so much in the space, like ThoughtSpot. And love the story, by the way. I really like how you guys, been there, and now 10 years, it's huge. But Chris, I'm kind of curious. I never asked you about lead data. Like, I know, you've gone now, you're growing, the team is growing drastically. But how did the birth happen in its bootstrap? So it's like, wow.
So we, some careful spending at the beginning, I think we've won. LEIT Data, there's the three founders, myself, Chris, and Ian. I don't know if anyone's online at the moment. So we worked together years ago, a company called BMW, which is probably no, they make the cars. So we did the data warehouse back in the day where, it was a three-man team that built. We actually put the infrastructure in. We put the CDs in there to load it. We did the database. We did the business analyst. We did the dashboard. We did the whole thing. But it was because back then, you didn't. To get the budget to go and do something that was very difficult. Right. So we all went on our journeys. We overlapped at a few places, but I think where this first started, I was doing work with Cloudera. They were a client, like the other way around. I was a client to them, and I was at a conference, and after that, someone introduced me to Snowflake, and saw it. I thought it looks like snake oil. You can't believe it. How can this all work with no indexes be this scalable? All the things that it took a long while for people to believe, and now it's just taken for granted. Coming from the Oracle days of having to tune databases and do lots of things just to get the sort of results that you can get from Snowflake with ease. And so I worked for an initial startup, worked on delivering account. Which was, I think, Snowflake's first client in the UK. Then I actually parted ways in that setup, and when I worked at Sainsbury's. So Sainsbury's were probably Snowflake's second biggest sort of success. Getting that sale. But while working there, I'm thinking, I think I've missed a trick here. I should have either took a job at Snowflake maybe, or definitely, and or give it another go. So myself, Ian, and Chris, we started a bit of a stealth mode about 2019, and then the three of us got back on the tools, so to speak, and we did our first few clients. But we've been doing this for years, so we actually knew the industry, but Snowflake's one piece of the puzzle. I think where we've been quite successful is we know all the pieces needed for that puzzle, and we're able to join it together. So the technology is just one aspect of it. It's the people, the processes, the ways of working, the communication, cultural change, emotional attachment to things. Be able to talk the right language to the right person.
It's very important.
So we were able to provide that, work at different levels, and slowly grew, and then grew very, very quickly. I think the reason why we've been able to grow that quick really is that known network. We had probably half the people in the company are people we've worked with before. So it's a nice, good community feel, and it doesn't. We're growing fast, and I'll still talk to anyone. If you see the green, I'll pop in and speak to people, and vice versa. It's a very flat, open sort of culture. But we are passionate about data, and we do love our jobs, maybe a bit too much sometimes. So it's hard to work out when I'm not working and I am working nowadays.
So you're doing something you love, which is
exactly, and that's exactly it. Even though did put a post out which did talk about having passion for something you do. I know it's not always possible, but if you do have to choose something you're going to go into, have passion, because you've got to do it for quite a while. You work till, believe me, you do work for many years till you retire. So if you can enjoy what you do while you're doing it, and you find, going back to that chasing the data science as well, maybe that isn't. You'll find out if that is your passion. Validate it is, because you might just prefer being a well-paid data analyst, and just really playing that data and not doing that, and still adding the value and just enjoying it more. So the other view I take on passion is sort of say, why do you still do what you're still doing it? And say, well, I'm not going to say passion. I keep getting told off that is, it satisfies my desire to solve problems. I like solving problems, even when they're not mine. But even when people don't want me to solve the problem for them, I'll try and solve it. And that desire, this role gives me that. So if anyone's got any problems out there, data related, just send them through.
You still go out there and solve problems?
I do. I'm trying to hire everyone that's better than me at the things that I'm doing at the moment, so I can actually do the things I love doing the most, which is solving their problems. So I'm selective which clients I work with now. My time is not. I don't have as much, but I wouldn't be able to talk like I talk on these things without doing that, because I wouldn't have the knowledge, and you're always learning. So if any Lorcan, if you're listening to, or Nathan or Jack, any of them, I learned from those guys, and they were our grads, and they've come up through the hierarchy. They've come up through the training program, and they teach me things, and so always learning. And I think I said before is that the day I stop thinking I'm learning, well, then that's the day I should stop, because if I think you already know already, then I'm just becoming an arrogant idiot. So.
You need to be a learner first, and then the educator, and then maybe you're out there doing different things for everyone. But very interesting. Thanks for sharing those thoughts. I know we have a short of time, but we have a few questions, and
have we only gone through?
But I still want to take these questions. Kate is here, and she loves these t-shirts. Thanks, Kate.
Thanks, Kate.
Yeah.
Was good. I think I bumped into Kate at the Beyond conference. She's
you guys danced, I know.
Kate's fantastic.
She's one of the influencers out there. One of the best ones.
Awesome. So she has a question for Laura. Question for Laura: how does ThoughtSpot work with financial services companies to help them to get insights quicker versus traditional BI tools? I know we've spoken a bit about it, but any thoughts around it?
Yeah, fantastic question. And interestingly enough, financial services is probably first, or if not the second, of our kind of biggest vertical. I think partly because huge, because the sort of financial services industry, I think, is always trying to be ahead of the curve, because there's every industry has its pressures and challenges, but I think in financial services, there's so much sort of transition from the big banks and the incumbent kind of organizations into the sort of fintech space, or buy now, pay later, and all these kind of pop-ups that are sort of eating up the market space, and kind of attracting more of the modern day consumer, I guess, who wants to just set up a bank account on their phone within 5 seconds rather than going into a retail banking store. So in terms of the clients we work with, a lot of them I can't name, obviously, for don't get told off by the legal team. But in the large banks or financial services firms, what we're seeing is more of a sort of alignment with maybe more traditional BI tools. Again, I don't think there's any enterprise that just has one silver bullet tool, but we've had companies who tell us, look, they invested in Snowflake or another cloud data warehouse, but we are seeing a lot of Snowflake in the financial services sector. And then we have VPs of analytics who tell us that we are, there's actually one VP of data from one of our largest financial services firms in the US who told us that I'm building my career on ThoughtSpot and Snowflake.
Wow!
So it's a kind of a game changer for the personalities in these banks as well. And so my perspective, I work with a number of fintech companies here in the UK and some in the Nordics. And for them, the challenges that they're facing and why they need sort of live analytics technology is very much around that spurt of growth that a lot of fintechs had to gain the consumer through having cheaper sign-up rates or making it easier. It's all about sort of how quickly can I get a user like us to sign up on the mobile app. And if Revolut can do it in 5 seconds, but Monzo can do it in 4 seconds, they're going to gain that consumer, because we are impatient by nature. So for them, it's how do we balance kind of customer acquisition with profitability, and for that you need to move at sort of the speed of thought, for want of a better phrase.
Think on the spot.
Thinking on the spot. It's true, and I think as well in a lot of the financial organisations, there's two kind of emerging trends we're seeing as well, which tie nicely into empowering the non-technical users to get insights faster. And one, that's the product teams in the fintech companies we work with, because they're looking at data on audience interaction, on their mobile app, and for that it's okay. Well, is that certain age groups, certain regions, it's certain number of logins per day? So there's a multitude of ways you can slice and dice that data to make decisions on product roadmap, on which feature do we iterate to make it easier for the end consumer. You can't do that if you're waiting 2 weeks to build a dashboard to answer questions that you don't even know, because you don't actually know what data you're collecting. And then similarly, tying into the other big trend that we're seeing in the space of embedded analytics and data as an asset, which is actually a phrase coined by VP of Analytics at Verizon, who spoke at Beyond as well. Obviously, the telecommunications company. I think data as an asset is such a kind of critical term, and some of the fintech or financial services companies we're working with, Mastercard is one I can speak about publicly, because they've done interviews with us as well, and they've embedded analytics to provide an interactive live data experience for their merchant customers to understand in the moment what are the trends in spending and payments that our merchant customers are doing, which again, the embedded analytics space is set to reach about 102 billion by 2027. And that's why we're seeing in every industry actually look at how can we monetize data, how can we turn into more of a services provider. So it's an exciting space, and thank you for the question, Kate.
Yeah, amazing. We have another one coming from Mike Nash, and Mike Nash is from UK as well. So his question is, what are your thoughts on data scene in UK, London? How does it differ to the US?
First of all, Mike, sorry for cancelling tonight's meeting. I had one straight after this. So we'll speak tomorrow. You can follow up on even more of this question. Right? So I actually had a sneak peek. I saw the question come up before, and you know what? It's probably the hardest one I've got so far tonight, because I spent, and Mike knows, I've just come back from 7 weeks in the US, and obviously I'm meant to live in the UK, and that's where my home is. But so I do know a bit about both. And what I see is the difference in. It's not. I mean, America's the scene's just bigger. I do think there's a bit more of a. Well, actually, there's one observation. So I do a lot of LinkedIn. There's a bit of a community. But most of the people I meet are in America. So I haven't met as many people via the community that I didn't know already. Maybe I knew everyone in the UK already before. No, but there must be some people I don't know. But I don't know if the Americans are more friendlier or more likely to sort of engage or collaborate a little bit more. So I think that's one observation. But I think the US are a little bit more concerned about the downturn in the market. I don't think it's quite seen as bad over here, because I get asked a lot over there, what my view is, and I'm thinking, it's not that bad. I don't think it's that bad. So that's the feeling I'm getting. I mean, we're still seeing there's lots of work there now. I think that in America, because there was more that VC spending was happening over there in the US, and because of the cutbacks with some of the data robot being one, I think some other ones that have laid off some people as well in that area. But most of the layoffs have been in maybe companies that are not building data technologies, but thinking they can use the data to monetize it, and maybe they've just finally got around to FinOps. So they've just got around to looking how much this stuff was costing. They realised, all right, maybe we're burning a bit too much and not getting the right value out of it. So yeah, I think I don't know if I'd answer it spot on there, Mike, but we can follow up on any more tomorrow. But yeah, that's just some observations I have.
Yeah, fantastic. Do you have any thoughts, Laura?
Yeah, I think,
because you closely work with the US team as well, right?
Yes, we do. Yeah, so we're obviously this is our sort of headquarters of EMEA, but we're very close with our friends in ThoughtSpot and the rest of the team over in the US and around the world as well. I think that there's always a slight delay between, like, the US is usually first in terms of technology trends, and it sort of filters into Europe and across there. But one thing I was thinking is kind of an interesting parallel actually is typically Silicon Valley has been the heart of everything tech and B2B companies and SaaS, and now we're seeing this new sort of hotspot in Austin in Texas is sort of where a lot of companies are going and putting their headquarters. So there's
tax break then.
Interesting, but there you go. So sort of there's a spreading out, I guess, of some of the innovation, and we're sort of seeing the same here in London's obviously a hotspot as well, as particularly for fintech. Actually, in East London, there's a lot of fintech startups over in some Shoreditch area, for anyone who knows London. But we're actually now seeing Manchester is becoming quite a hub. Matillion obviously a base there. We're actually doing an event on Wednesday this week with Phil Pearson from the Modern Milkman, if he's out there today, which is it's a milk delivery company started in Manchester, I believe.
Yeah, I've seen it.
Yeah, there you go. They've built their, again, modern tech stack, Snowflake, and now ThoughtSpot. They went live with almost 60 users in the first 30 days or something. So Phil's doing an amazing job, and that's sort of a hub of technology there as well. And Dublin actually in Ireland, started Cartrawler, our first customer in Ireland last year. So there's sort of other pockets of innovation outside of London, which I guess if the world becomes a smaller place, sort of the data scene almost expands to other places as well. And I guess COVID and remote working has just accelerated that, because it's easier for talent to pop up everywhere nowadays.
The next hotspot is going to be Portugal and Prague.
Oh, is it?
Well, that's because that's where we're going to
I was going to say.
But awesome, nice question. Thanks for that, Nike. I know we are up, but we have so much that we still have to discuss. We have women in data. We have tech companies, VCs.
On data dead fully or not?
Yeah.
Who killed it? If it
Who
did?
killed it?
We want to know. We want justice.
But if I know, and very quickly, just wanted to remind the folks who are joining us that you still have the chance to win ThoughtSpot giveaway. What I'll be doing is, after this question, I'll be doing the raffle. So all the best for that. But Chris, Laura, if people want to find you, have more questions for you guys, where can they reach out to you?
Well, on the website, www.leit-data.com, or just search Chris Tabb on LinkedIn, you'll find me. I'm quite prolific on there. Follow me on there, collaborate, reach out, or chris.tabb@leit.ltd.
Awesome. Laura?
Yeah, fantastic. Similar, it's www.thoughtspot.com, obviously, to find out about us, start a free trial, test it out for yourself, get hands-on, connect it to your own cloud data warehouse. Me personally, obviously I'm on LinkedIn, Laura McDonald, or Laura.McDonald@ThoughtSpot.
Awesome. This is amazing. Thanks for this session. Let's do the giveaway very quickly. I know we have some 14 entries already. So all the best for those who have gone for this one. And this is how the raffle goes. It's very cool. It automatically picks a winner.
And you can't influence it?
No, I can't.
Hey!
Sonia from YouTube. Congratulations. Yeah. So this is how it's done. And but yeah, we're almost close to an hour. I don't know, time really flies. It was fantastic being here with you guys, hosting you. You really shared amazing insights, and thanks to ThoughtSpot for the office and for the place. We'll definitely see everyone around, and feel free to reach out to Chris and Laura on LinkedIn. check out their website. Chris is doing amazing stuff with LEIT Data and Laura with ThoughtSpot. Thank you everyone for joining us today. Seeing you off. Take care.
Thank you.
All right.